Greetings, divine spirits, and welcome to Deepen in the Divine Radio. I'm really pleased to be back with BBS Radio. In fact, I want to take a minute right up front just to give a lot of gratitude to both Don and Doug for the community that they've developed and literally the technical world that they've had to put all of their hearts and minds and sweat and energy into. And I'm just so very grateful to them. Just because I had to recently take a break. I used to do a show with my best friend, a brother from another mother, Sheldon Joe. We did, of course, radio up until I think about the end of last year. So this is kind of a homecoming, and I'm just really grateful to be back and to be really working with the community again, because I kind of went away for a bit, and now I'm back out there doing things like gifting readings, volunteering in my community, especially at a church. And so I figured this would be another way to not just to create community, but also to give back to community. And so you'll be seeing a lot of different themes or topics coming from this radio program that hopefully, a good number of you will find interesting. You'll want to return. Themes such as A Course in Miracles, forgiveness, spiritual mind healing of the body or emotional body, developing your intuition, which is going to be part of the topic for today, channeling spirit, and then things like dependency on God as strength. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that unfold in your life? Because I'm finally at a point in my life where I just realize if there's no God, then there's nothing. It might seem obvious to others, but for me, it's literally in every little detail of my life, at least the best that I can do right now, especially while having a full-time job, being busy at times, and having all the relationships that I do. But I want to be able to share at least what I've learned, but at the same time, I'd love to hear from you in the community, especially for those that are looking for intuitive guidance in your life. I love to gift intuitive information. In fact, I'll mention an offer that I'm going to do here by the end of the show. But if you do feel called, either maybe some of you know me already, or you're just interested and either want to learn more or get intuitive guidance in your life, you can call in live today. And that's today, October 6th. That's when this is live, and it'll be recorded as well. But the call-in number is 888-429-5471. Again, that's 888-429-5471. And as I was posting on Facebook and Twitter before here, if you're feeling saucy and that maybe this is your moment to call in and there's something that's been going on in your life that you want some guidance around, this would be a great opportunity for you. And if not, maybe you want to sit back and listen, which is great. And I'll give you some opportunities to potentially get intuitive readings outside of the radio show. So great. And before we jump into, I'm going to do a little bit more gratitude here before we get started, because I think gratitude has been it is a useful tool for all of us, and it puts us all in this amazing emotional state. But before we go there, I think for every show, I'm definitely going to be reading some type of quote. Mostly, a lot of it will be from A Course in Miracles, because for me, this is the spiritual practice that just makes complete sense. It took a while. The little blue book with the gold lettering sat on my shelf for a couple years collecting dust. I'd occasionally brush it off and open it. But one day it finally made sense, and I'll get into that story at some other point. But for today, just two very simple, quick quotes from the Course. The first is from the workbooks section for students. I don't have the lesson number, but it's a title and it's used very often. And that's, "I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me." This is what I like to call just a forgiveness thought system. This is something that you can use throughout your day because it's a really easy one to remember. One of the few, I think, that's really easy to remember, not just because it rhymes, but because, again, with the Course, it can just say very short, simple sentences, but then it says it all. This is very straightforward. I am not a body, and then I am still as God created me. I mean, if you just remember that, if you get caught up in your day, maybe you're upset by something, or you realize that you're judging something or someone or yourself, or you're feeling anything but love, this is a great pattern interrupt. That's what a lot of the Course phrases do. It gets you to just stop siding with the ego, siding with fear, siding with whatever you don't want, right? So that you can come back and choose peace, choose love, choose joy. And we'll get into more about how to practice forgiveness. But again, this is a great A Course in Miracles quote. And then the other one that just sticks with me all the time and reminds me that, our life, and especially how our mind works, requires effort. And the quote, and I believe this is in the text, and I think it's in chapter 2, but it's stated simply, "This is a course in mind training." And that's really, in my opinion, how life really is. It's just one big course. We're either sitting in class learning things, or we're out in the world practicing what we've learned. And, A Course in Miracles is only one path. Clearly recognize that. And there's so many ways, really, ultimately, to get back to God, to have full knowledge, full experience of God. That's something I personally want. And I think if you're listening, I really think that that's something you want. Maybe not consciously right now, but at some level it's there. And that's what you ultimately want. Maybe some of the body-based or physical desires of love, wealth, finances, a way for your home to look, a career to look, it's probably covering something much deeper. And my stake in the world is that we all want to come back to God. We all want to experience that. And I think that we can do that in this current lifetime that you're in. We can model what Jesus did, or what I think his wife, Mary Magdalene, did as well in that lifetime together. And we'll talk more about that as well at some other point. So, and in fact, if you have any A Course in Miracles quotes or stories or experiences, that's something I always love to talk about, love to hear from other people, because I only have one perspective, one experience of that type of work. So if you feel called to, you can either contact me. My website is Krytsa, KRYTSA.com. Have a contact page there. Or if you feel like participating live, again, that's 888-429-5471. Okay, so back to gratitude. I think this is a wonderful headspace to be in before starting almost anything, aside from connecting with God, having intention to connect with God or Spirit. For me, I've been finding a lot of value in this, especially to shift the emotional state. I think a lot of you can relate to this. I have a day job, and it's very, quote unquote, heady. I'm an engineer by day. I've been doing this for a couple decades now. And granted, there are moments in my job where I get to be creative and free, but normally, it's a lot of like thinking, doing, making stuff with my hands. I'm a research and development engineer, so at least I get to play a bit, but it can be very heady. And so I found that looking for gratitude in your life to start out the day, be in the middle of your day at like a lunchtime, and then to end of the day is a beautiful place to bring yourself back into your heart. And so as I'm going through my gratitude experiences or people that I wish to acknowledge, you can at the same time go into your own headspace and maybe even keep a small tally of how much you have to be grateful for in your life. But for me, my biggest gratitude moments that I've been having for a while has to do with my wife, Mary. She's basically this intelligent, beautiful being who literally has kept me sane, healthy, and reminding me to stay in love over and over again, especially because of a lot of health things I've been going through. And then before transitioning from Seattle to California, which we did towards the beginning of the year, I was going through quite a bit at my last job. And without her, I don't know what would have happened. I probably would have just melted into a puddle. But thank God for Mary. I would also like to give a shout out again to my brother from another mother, Sheldon Joe, who I mentioned at the beginning of the show. He's just my soul brother. He's just always there. He's always on my mind and in my heart, aside from my wife. but just, one of those people that as soon as you meet them, you realize this person, this is a special person in my life, and I want to be with this person. And then also to see Sheldon, how he's grown as a person, as a spiritual being, and as a teacher of God over the last years. It's really beautiful. And also, it's kind of cool too, because we started a Course in Miracles group pretty much at the same time. And that's how we got to meet his wife. So I'm really grateful for their connection. And Jacqueline is amazing, beautiful. So thank you, thank you. Also for Darren Owens. And he was a guy that met at the same time around I met Sheldon. And he's a powerful, intuitive, and teacher. I think he's always changed it a little bit, the modality he's working in, but powerful person. And he helped kick my astral and to get me to not only develop my tools, but to get out there and share my gifts. So thank you. And then before we even get started with what my show will be about, I wanted to acknowledge a few of the other BBS hosts. And these are people that, I might have met briefly, or just some of their work has touched me. The first would be Julia Cannon, and that's for her, supporting her mother's work for years before, unfortunately, her mother Dolores passed away, which the community is really sad about. But, Julia is continuing that work, the quantum healing hypnosis work, that community. And her show is the Metaphysical Hour, and it's every Friday, Channel 1 at 5 p.m. And then there's Dee Wallace, who has the Conscious Creation show on Sundays at 9 a.m., again on Channel 1. And her book, Bright Light, really touched me. I loved how she shared her personal story. And of course, it's always interesting to me to hear about people that have worked in movies. I love movies personally. Maybe that's why somehow miraculously we got down to the Los Angeles area, because I never thought we'd live here. But she's just such a wonderful, bright light person, which is why her book was perfectly titled. And again, her show, highly recommend it, Sundays, 9 a.m. And then James Gilliland, who Mary and I have, talked with a little bit. We took his self-mastery class, which is absolutely amazing. His radio show, As You Wish Radio, which he does out of his East City Ranch around Mount Adams in southern Washington, 8 p.m. Saturdays. But if it wasn't for James and his ranch and the yearly conference that he holds, the relationship with my wife and I might not have deepened as much, because I remember she shyly invited me to the conference, and we had just met really about a month, and we went and camped and had an amazing time, met beautiful, wonderful people. And I just want to acknowledge all these people because they've had an impact in my life. They are helping other people, and I just want to acknowledge the work that they do and thank them for the work that they do. And hopefully that you've already checked them out, that you already listened to their shows and their work. If not, maybe this will inspire you to do that. So there you go. So that's gratitude. And hopefully, even if you want to share something that you're grateful for, feel free to call in. Feel free or to just write it down and post it and put it somewhere so that, if you notice that being in this state of mind literally changes your heart, changes your breathing, that's enough. That's just the small bit of willingness that the Holy Spirit needs to come in and continue to guide you along the path of happiness and joy and peace and love. So what a great tool to use. Awesome. All right. So I don't want to take too much time up on the radio show today, but I figured I should briefly mention who I am so you understand that when I talk about these things, it's not because I just read a book a week ago and I thought that, hey, I'm now an expert in this. I grew up as a Catholic, and it never really suited me, I guess you'd say, and I always questioned it. And so after going through up through my late 20s, I just had been kind of going through the motions, and literally just had a moment in my life where I was coming back. I was working, I can say this now, I was working at the Boeing company in Seattle on the 787 program. So it was at a time we were developing it. It was a lot of hours, just tons of energy, tons of time I had to put into it to get it to a point where it became an actual flying airplane. But I just remember I kind of knew deep down I wasn't happy. I was just really ignoring it. I'd literally come home almost every day. I'd grab a beer, I'd grab the remote to the TV, and just slump down in a chair. And I never really thought much about it until one day I was doing that, and I just noticed all these thoughts running through my head, and they weren't really nice thoughts. Things like, you're no good, no one loves you, you don't deserve anybody, and why are you here? Those types of things, and it literally shocked me. It shocked me so much that I dumped my beer out, just poured it right out, and shut off the TV. And it just started this process that I think a lot of people I've talked to that have been on a spiritual journey can relate to. There's just something, it could be dramatic or something even so subtle that turns into a big deal that it changes their life. And that's what happened for me. And and this was back in 2003, 2004 timeframe, somewhere in there. So it's not like this happened yesterday, and it's not like I've been doing this for decades and decades, but it's been a while, enough where I feel a lot more grounded than I did back then. And so that just led me on this huge journey. And if you want to read more about it, I wrote more about my personal journey in this book called Forgiveness, Inc., which is about practicing forgiveness or your spirituality while you're at your day job. No surprise there. Someone that's an engineer in a corporation that figures out how to apply spiritual practices, at my job, which again, I feel is very useful. And I would mention, if you're interested and you go to Amazon, don't do that. If you go to my website, krytsa.com, KRYTSA.com, and you sign up for my newsletter, you will get that as a free download when you sign up. So please don't go out and buy it. I really want to gift this to people that want to be part of the community. You'll also get my other ebook, which is about basically being spiritual and how do you do creative things in the world. But I think Forgiveness, Inc. for this community is probably the right one. So I highly encourage you to go over there and check it out. But yeah, basically just went through this huge period of my life where just gobbled up all kinds of spiritual philosophy and experiences, just started meditating immediately right away, and just had some amazing experiences with meditation that we'll eventually talk about. But at one point, I think it was around 2006-ish, 2007, finally started to open up to, I've always felt like I was intuitive, but never really did much about it. That's kind of like taboo in the Catholic world, or that's weird in the normal world. But just kept meeting people and experiencing things with people that eventually literally started to channel. And it was literally on New Year's Day, 2007. And it came through where it was my higher self. And again, we'll get into intention and making sure that especially if you're going to channel, highly recommend protection and intention. But in that moment, I really knew and trusted what was happening, and it was my higher self, and I could literally feel this body within my body, and it felt like 12 feet tall. I could literally feel its fingers coming through mine, and it was like the fingers were 2 or 3 times my size. I mean, it's just so bizarre to have this physical sensation while also having the sensation I've got to speak. I've got to just start speaking. Which if you've ever channeled, you kind of know what that might be like. But the great thing is I set this up intentionally because I'm not one of those people where I want to check out and let messages come through me and then I come in later and go, oh, what happened? I'm fully present because I feel like personally my belief and experience is that if you check out, then you're probably not getting as much of the learning that you could if you're fully there, fully present, and allowing this energy to come through while you're also present. My personal opinion, again, this is something that we'll go through on another show topic, but really just these experiences kept opening doors. And then I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, met Darren, and he looked at me and literally said, "You need to start doing psychic readings." And I was like, whoa, no way. Because I had been sort of dabbling in it and giving away readings to friends and just trying it out. But then that forced me, again, not forced. I wanted to, it was a part of me that wanted to, but it scared the poopy out of me, really. Never thought I would be doing this. And, I'm glad. I had great experiences. We started a Course in Miracles group, met amazing people through that. But then eventually I had to return to the corporate world because I was in California during the recession trying to start a business, and just, that didn't work. And so that required a lot of forgiveness and going back into the corporate world. But, I've always known that this information, this gift is there. And so even when I try to shut it down, I can't. It comes back. And so again, I've just been learning that I want to keep sharing this. I want to keep gifting this to people. And so those of you that know me know that right now I am gifting intuitive readings. I'm not doing a whole lot right now just because I am so busy. But this was the thing that was mentioned earlier. If you're listening to this program, and I'm only going to offer it for right now. So if you do this on Friday, October 6th, 2017, but if you go to my website, krytsa.com, KRYTSA.com, and sign up for the newsletter, the email list, I will be checking. And anybody that signs up on today, I will be in contact with you, and I want to gift you with a free, usually they're 60-minute intuitive readings. So if you feel like this is something that you want or need in your life, I'm more than happy to gift this to you, because I just feel like, we are called together for whatever reason. For whatever reason, BBS Radio at this date and time, we are meant to be together somehow. Now, I realize that some of you might be listening to this after the fact, but don't worry, there'll be other opportunities. In fact, just go to my website. I do encourage you to sign up because you will get free ebooks, or down the road, you're going to start getting a lot of free stuff because I really want to share what I've learned and help people really deepen their relationship with God, as well as I think developing your intuitive gifts is very helpful. That's just my belief. It's helped me through so many things that I think I would have been stuck in if I didn't have these skills or this connection. But if you really feel like, hey, as I'm talking, that you really need an intuitive reading, a free one, a gifted one, then just feel free to contact me. Go to the webpage, krytsa.com, and contact me there. Send me an email. Tell me what's going on, and we'll figure something out. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today. Skipped around a lot, but that's all right. We're going to explore and learn more about each other as we go through this process, because I'm not planning to go anywhere other than doing this program. And just so you know, this program is going to be live every other Friday. One of the things that I'm very grateful about with my new job is I do get every other Friday off, which is freaking amazing. I love it. And I have to say I am grateful for the new job that I do have. It's I think I could say it's a Richard Branson company, who I respect as a leader and as a human being. I say he's also a spiritual being. He might not see himself that way, but he has so much heart and caring and giving. What a wonderful demonstration and leader in this world versus some of the other I guess leaders that are quote unquote leaders. They get that label, but I wouldn't necessarily call them true leaders. So yeah, keep bringing up the gratitude thing. Okay. Once again, just want to mention, if you're feeling called, if you want to have some sort of intuitive guidance on this call or on this radio program today, the live number is 888-429-5471. All right. So I wanted to talk about because the topic for today, the one I chose, is called Get Your Intuition On. Again, I would imagine that a lot of people in this community that listen on BBS radio, or those that I may have contacted on my pages, a lot of you already are intuitive, but I just wanted to offer some unique perspectives, and also some what I think are unique methods that I've learned. As an example, I've got a YouTube video out on my channel. If you first go to my website, Krytsa, KRYTSA.com, the best way to get there is to look at all the social media links on my site and just click on the YouTube one. That'll get you there faster, because right now I don't have my own YouTube name yet. I'm waiting for enough subscribers to do that. But I do have a video on there that I posted, which is called Life Guidance Using Oracle Cards and Intuition. And I felt called to put that video out there because one of the tools that I learned, and again, I don't think I've seen this or any other intuitive do this, but if maybe it's not unique, please someone let me know so I could stop saying that. Um, but as I was doing readings at this metaphysical bookstore in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is now unfortunately closed down, it was a wonderful store. But again, that I think the recession in 2008 really hurt a lot of folks, including metaphysical bookstores. But when I was doing readings, I'd set up in the back room where we do readings, and I'd bring tarot cards. At first, I never used them, and then, as always, when I was doing readings, I would get intuitive hits to try things. And one thing came up for someone that had come in, and they're pretty upset about a relationship in their life. And I was just called, like, instead of pulling, like, if I do a past, present, future set of 3 cards, I was called to basically pull a set for the lower self, which now I've come to learn is like the physical body, your emotional body, and then a set of cards for the higher self or the spiritual body. And so basically, if I do past, present, future, I'm pulling a minimum of 6 cards. And what I love to do is I use the Osho Zen Tarot deck for the lower self cards. And then for the higher self, I'll use like Doreen Virtue's Ascended Masters deck, or maybe the Archangels, or she's got a deck on Loving Words from Jesus. But just something to represent that higher self, because I feel like what normally happens in readings, you're only getting one-sided information. Usually if it's all bright and joy and happiness, it's probably just a message from your higher self. Usually those messages are like, oh, it's all good. You're going to be good. Life is great. Don't worry. But sometimes people need a little bit more than that. They need some practical tips and information. And so that's where the lower self cards come in, because they're not always rosy. I think it's good that we realize that life isn't all, again, the roses or, just easy. And that, we're here to deal with some stuff that's a little bit harder. That's why we're here to forgive. We're here to learn our lessons in a way so that we can learn how to love no matter what the lesson is. And so, yeah, again, if you go to YouTube, it's one of the examples of some different ways that I've learned to apply, in this case, oracle cards or tarot cards in a way to develop your intuition, which is I don't just read what's in the pamphlet of the oracle card decks. That's where you start to develop, like, how do these cards feel? What is the real message for this person or myself based on maybe the look of the card, the feeling that I'm getting from the card, or just the words themselves. You start to learn to pick and choose what makes sense, and then to string together, especially what all the cards mean to you or to the other person if you're reading for somebody. So again, just a quick example of using intuition and maybe, a different way, something that you hadn't considered before. But before we move on, it looks like I'm assuming this is my brother from another mother. I see that Sheldon has joined us, and I'm assuming this is my buddy.
Hey. Can you hear me?
Sheldon, how are you?
What's up? Congratulations, brother.
Hey, well, thank you very much. I wish we were doing this together, but I felt a calling to just try this. But I know you're going to be on. I know you're going to be on more, because you are the man, the teacher of God that I love.
And I love you too, brother. Awesome. So sounds good.
Yeah. So
great.
Is there anything that you felt called to share, or any information that you're looking for guidance on?
Well, I was going to ask how you felt about when you're reading for somebody, if you know them versus you don't know them, what kind of difference, or did knowing the person actually interfere or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually it doesn't, although this is where it interferes for me, because I always have, I got this, the engineering mind, and I want to make sure, like, when I do my testing, my experiments, that, I'm not colluding or
biasing and all that.
Bias. Yeah. So like sometimes I'll be like, okay, I just gave information about this guy, and, Is it because I know them already ahead of time, or is this really truly guided information coming through? That's how I used to work in the past, but I think I've done so many now and gotten feedback from people, enough feedback to know, like, okay, this isn't just because I know somebody. This is, for whatever reason, I've been able to be more open at this stage in my life than before. And so I can trust this information. Even if I'm also learning, like, even if someone goes, no, I'm like, no, there's something there. Let's keep at it. Because if I'm getting information, there's something there. And usually we find out, yeah, there is something there. So it's a bit of balance, like, around trust, and also checking in at times to go, oh, am I saying this because I know this person, personally? That's why I try not to do a whole lot of, like, people I know really well, except I love you guys, and I know you can take the information and make sure that you discern for yourself, like, what's really coming fully unfiltered versus filtered. That helps.
It was interesting hearing you describe, because I don't think you've ever just, as much as well as I know you and much as we talk, like, I feel like I haven't heard that description of the energy coming in and what it felt like for you when you're connecting, like your higher self literally kind of coming in. Because it's been interesting for me, like, my meditations feel more and more powerful in that way. I don't channel like you do, right? But it's like literally feels like this really strong presence dropping in, and it's like, the deeper I can relax, the further in it goes. Which is kind of like, because there's this, like, your body will, like, twitch, you know what I mean? And if it twitches because it's so strong, then it can't, the merging can't happen quite as fully. So when you're breathing and relaxing, and if I breathe and relax, it'll just, like, and it's like this penetration all the way. It's pretty potent. It's pretty incredible. But it kind of sounded like what you were describing. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as you intentionally practice, because I do think meditation is a great tool to practice being intentional and opening. Like with you, Sheldon, I mean, having been around you, I know that you are wide open. And, like, your energy is huge, especially when you just sit and intend it. And I think you're a great example of what happens with, the amount of meditation that you've done. I think even like when you were doing Kung Fu, that was such a great tool. Excuse me. That was such a great tool to bring in energy, to intentionally bring in more energy. And I think that's why each person has this amazing integration of everything that you've learned and experienced. So I think everyone's so beautiful and unique, and we need to hear from everybody. And we need to hear from you, Sheldon, for sure. But I will go back and say I don't do readings. I learned pretty quickly not to do readings for family members. It's just that's way too close, especially if the family members are not really open to hearing some pointed information. I think it's just, sometimes I just play it safe. It's like, nope, I'm not touching that. I'm not going there.
Yeah. And I guess it matters for the person and how open they are, period, right? Whether they're family or not. If somebody, because sometimes people can kind of be open on one level, but not on another, right?
Yeah. And, I think that happens to all of us. I mean, we don't know what our blind spots are until somehow it's revealed to us. And then when it's revealed, sometimes we really don't want to see it. And so that's where I just let people go without judgment on with their lives. Like, if they're being destructive, it's like, yeah, that's your path, and that's okay. I get to forgive that image, because
blessings and love to you, brother, as you go down that. Right?
Thank you. And yeah, again, I have this feeling that you'll be on again, Sheldon.
So, did you want to do? Can I do a reading? Can I get a reading?
Let's do like one question real quick, because I know there's somebody else on the line as well. I want to make sure we have time. Oh, well, we have plenty of time. But yeah, let's do one question just so we can kind of see how that goes.
Is there any guidance with regard to my putting myself out there, kind of like what you're doing, in terms of direction?
Yeah. And just real quick, I'm going to use this sort of like as a teaching moment as well,
Perfect.
just because we know each other. Are you cool with that? I'm not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Just so you know, before I did this call, I set an intention. I do a prayer, an invocation prayer. And I would just recommend that anybody do this. Like, it's an intentionality. For me, it's just getting grounded, bringing light in, bringing God and Holy Spirit in. And then in this case, I would bring in Sheldon's guides or angels or whatever works for Sheldon to basically dial in and say, this is what I want to connect with. And so I was kind of doing that in my mind as Sheldon was talking, that I wanted to connect with his guides and angels specifically. But going back to your question, Sheldon, I think you would, again, this is where it gets weird because we know each other. And I have had interaction with you in the past. And in the past, I was kind of more of a butt kicker, if you remember. Like for you, it
Yes, I
felt
do.
like, oh, Scott's kicking me in the butt again. He's making me get out there. But right now, it feels like it's like a pulling in. So it's not like
Hmm.
a kicking, like because you are like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that, or that I'm going to, start freaking out if I think I'm going to do it, because you finally reach that point of willingness, which is a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. And so now the doors open, and it's not just the doors open, but it feels like a sucking in because your energy is so magnetic and so strong that as soon as you make decisions like you have recently, like I'm going to do this, like for me, it's going to be like watching this freight train fly by me, and it's going to be like, oh, that was Sheldon. He's way out there now. That's how it feels to me. And it's something that I've known all along about you, just because of how beautiful, wonderful, loving you are. And now you're like, okay, I'm willing to put myself in service of. And when you do that, I think the universe and our collective minds really react strongly to that, especially in today's day and age. It's so needed. So yeah, I just feel
Hmm.
it's like this sucking forward into what you're meant to be doing. What that looks like, that's something that, I think you have a picture of, and I would just highly recommend. You don't necessarily have to go out and do like a full-on vision board, but at least get some ideas down on paper or some images down, so you can keep like priming that pump, and at least get
Okay.
something physical out there to remind yourself, oh, this is what it looks like, or this is what I think it looks like. Like in your case, I would recommend looking for pictures, when they've taken a camera and they take a picture of a big crowd of people.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like musicians do that, like a stadium size. Like for you, that's what it
Yeah.
feels like. That energy.
Okay.
Physically, it might be
Uh,
different, but that energy is huge. Yeah.
cool. Perfect.
Keep at it, brother. I can't wait.
Thank you very much. That's super helpful.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Yeah. I mean, for you, it's very clear. Obviously, I think our connection is clear, which
Yeah. Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you have
Awesome,
another
man. Well,
caller. I'm gonna
yeah, I
love you,
think we
brother.
do. So I want to thank you, Sheldon. And we're going to move on to our next caller. And I believe it's Aaron from, I think it's a state called Washington, maybe even Seattle.
Y- yes, it is.
All
Seattle, Washington.
right. Welcome.
Hmm.
Welcome. It's been a while
Thank
since we
you.
chatted.
I'm
Feels
excited
like.
to. I know it's. I'm excited to be here. I'm so proud of you for stepping into your light.
Thank
I
you.
keep
And same to
watching your
you.
social media and all your energy and all those intentions you're setting are just. They're magnificent. I'm just so proud. I had to call in. I had to.
Well,
I
thank you
would have
so
called in
much. And it's
earlier,
beautiful to
but
see you like
yeah.
mirroring that and literally doing the same thing. And we're kind of walking the same path together, which I love because you
Well,
are so amazing.
actually, you're very sweet, but this is why I'm calling, because I want to talk to you about my life's purpose, because my heart is
Mm,
not in my work.
mm,
So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and if I just need to be more patient with myself and stop judging my process, which keeps coming to me. I'm being enlightened with like, stop judging your process, but I want to hear from you what you might see around that for me, if you have any
yeah. Well,
intuition around that, or
yeah, it's really interesting because what came up for me is not it's deeper than just judging the process. It feels like a total judgment of yourself. Like, again, it gets back to like the way I can relate to it is sort of like the voices in your head, like not good enough. And it has nothing to do with the process. It has nothing to do because you're doing all the like physically doing all the right things. I mean, you're a professional marketer for God's sakes. And you're still under Madrona Marketing, right? Madrona, that's still your business name.
That's one of my yeah. The coaching is more what I'm doing now, like the one-to-one marketing support and coaching and stuff like that. And that part is fine. That part when I get into working with people is always good, but I feel like I'm not serving my life's purpose. Honestly, like I like what I do, but I don't feel like passionate about it in a way that makes me feel like I'm serving a greater purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what comes up for me, and hopefully it's not too direct, but it's like you're way too limited. If you're only doing like marketing coaching, again with you, your energy is so beautiful and large that if you only focus on like marketing stuff, to me it feels very limiting, which is probably why you're not feeling very energetic or enthusiastic about what you're doing, because it feels like you need to be like you need to open your scope up way more so that you're bringing in
good idea.
Like, to me, what comes up and what I see, or it's not what I see, it's what your guides are showing me. And that's basically everything about you is business, but business with heart. And there are so many people out there that want to be in business, but they don't want to sell out their soul, sell out their heart, right? And it feels like you as a coach can provide that. You're the one that just constantly reminds them, like, hey, baby, what are you doing here? You're off track. And it doesn't matter if they're a marketer, or if they're business and it is about their marketing. It's so much bigger than that. And I think there's a tendency for you to want to judge yourself around like, well, I only kind of know marketing, so that's all I can really do. That's crap. You've been in business longer than most people, especially smaller businesses. Obviously, this is where I know a bit more about your background, so I'm kind of jumping out of the intuitive part and into, okay, this is what I know about you. But because of your background, because of your wisdom and knowledge in the practical world, you can take that and apply it, not just to marketing. Again, it's like your guides are so clear to me right now. It's like, stop just focusing on marketing. It needs to be much broader, much bigger, which as a marketer, you probably go, oh, crap, because that's so counterintuitive to develop a niche, right? But to be honest with you, that's where I'm feeling you're being guided to, is sort of like, okay, figure out the messaging around, if I'm not just focusing on marketing, how can I serve people? And it has something to do, again, with bringing heart or combining, balancing heart and business together, something like that. It's going to have to be you sort of sitting, contemplating, or walking on the beautiful shores of the Puget Sound, and really trying to understand who are the people I'm trying to speak to, and how can I best serve them in a way where I'm giving them all of me and not just a piece.
So that is really interesting, because something that I'm constantly struggling with now, especially as I use more video and let my personality shine through camera and stuff like that, I struggle around bringing, letting this week, for example, I did my Monday Marketing Minute, and, it's a minute or two of marketing advice typically, and people tune in and they get something quick and they go about their day. Well, all I wanted to do for my Monday Marketing Minute was acknowledge and hold space for what happened in Las Vegas. And I didn't want to talk about marketing. I was like, screw marketing. We are a human race, and this is what's going on today, and this is where I'm at. And I really struggled as I prepared for that, and I ended up doing a little marketing video, a little bit different than normal, but a little tiny short marketing piece. And I came away from that, and I made some notes like I normally do, and my notes were all about letting that part of myself be in my business with my clients, because yeah, it's true. I do have heart, and I bring that forth, and I don't like slick, shiny marketing wheels or anything like that. I like being genuine and authentic in myself. So bringing that into my online presence has been a really big struggle, because it leaves you so open and vulnerable. And so my question to you is, when you feel my guides and my angels, are they cheering that piece on?
Clearly, yeah. From what I can feel, it's yes. It needs to be bigger. Again, if it's just like, oh, I've got to figure out how to funnel everything down in the world into this marketing persona that I have, like that just feels, even though what I feel is going on is like this conflict of what you've learned about marketing, which it feels like you're leaning more towards, I got to develop this niche and this very specific message. I'm getting very clearly from your guides, like, don't stop doing that. Like, it's just not serving. Like, for you, it really does need to be what is inspiring to you, because you are also a very clear channel and you know what people need in that moment. And yeah, there's a time in any work, if a tragedy happens, it's like, stop working and let's process this. Let's come together as a community. And then once we've processed and done some healing, we can come back to the work. And it could be very brief, or it might take a day, a week. I mean, who knows? But you know, because you are a very intuitive person yourself. So I think you're right on with your intuition about, this, my work doesn't feel right. But what it feels like to me is branching into more. It's like I can feel or see, there's some business coaching around there, but it's like it'll be there, but like also just letting go of this label of like a marketing coach, just letting that go. And just, you can try that. Just try it for like a day, or maybe give yourself a week, a business week. See how that feels. See how that might change your energy, change the energy of the people around you, the reactions you get, because I think, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because I know a little bit about your background. Like, I know you do like BNI stuff. Like, it does get tricky when you have been kind of showing up and saying, this is me, this is me, this is me. And then you're going to probably have to go, well, it's kind of me, but it's different. It looks different now. It's going to be this now. And you need to be okay with that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And you can practice there.
Talk about, yeah, no, that's a wonderful suggestion, because I mean, if there's anything to embrace right now, it's bringing in more love, and I need that love piece to be in what I'm doing with my profession too. I mean, it's the piece of that for sure, and I think that's about being true to myself, because I can't just be a business girl. I'm also a deeply empathic person who like you said, knows what people need in the moment. So
yeah, exactly. You're a heart coach.
Heart coach, I like it.
However, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's about that. That feels like the essence of it. Now, how it shows up, physically, I don't know. I think that's something that you're going to have to work on and journal and what I call try-storm, which is try a bunch of different things and see what works. But yeah, it just feels like you got to go bigger in scope.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's kind of like more mix of business and life coaching, but definitely addressing the life part I feel is very important.
Yeah. Thank you for that, my friend. Appreciate that.
Anytime. In fact, if you want a longer experience of this, just email me and we'll do this offline. We'll do a session.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been meaning to reach out and say that I'm interested in that for sure. For sure. So I'll do that.
All right. Well, you take care and say hi to that wonderful husband of yours.
Yes, I will when he gets home. I definitely will. And give my love to your love as well.
Thank you so much, Erin. You take care.
All right.
All right. Well, there goes Erin. I know that she was going under Madrona Marketing, but I'll have to get back on another session with all of you and let you know what her other company is, because she is an amazing person. I've hired her in the past for helping develop marketing plans, and she's just, her energy is so amazing. Her idea is extremely creative. But as you heard, there's even more to her that I think we all knew. And just sometimes it just needs to be spoken. And now Erin gets a chance to go off and integrate what she's heard, take in what makes sense to her, leave what doesn't, and then go out in the world and try it on. And those are great examples of how, using or connecting with intuition can benefit other people. And what I'd like to do in probably another session, I don't think we're going to do it today just based on time, because I want to devote more time to it. But there's definitely, I feel like, a big difference between getting intuition for other people versus for yourself. My personal experience, and I'd love to hear what other people experience, but I know when I try to get intuitive information for myself, I can get confused very quickly, because I definitely will hear conflicting information. I'll hear like my ego-based self, and then I'll hear the intuitive side. And sometimes I get totally confused. I'll be really honest with you. And that's why I've been blessed and gifted with people in my life that are intuitive, like my wife, like people like Sheldon and Aaron, those wonderful examples that, people that kind of go, hey, why are you doing that? Why don't you do this? And it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. And so I think the more that you open up and the more that you're willing to hear advice or hear intuitive information, you're going to start seeing that show up all over your life. And that can get confusing, I'll be honest with you. And so, a good rule that I like to use, or something that typically seems to work, is if I hear something 3 or more times, then it's usually the universe or my guides or, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of saying, hey, buddy, this is where you should go, or you should really listen to that advice. I know my wife would love for me to do that more often with her, which I am. I will. I promise, Mary, honey, I will. So there you go. So a little bit more with intention. And I also wanted to share, again, I do have a video on this as well on YouTube. It's called How to Deepen in the Divine with the Rosary of Mary. If you're not into rosaries, don't worry about it. But basically at the beginning, I think near the beginning of that video, I go through the intention or the invocation prayer that I use. And I think I'd like to share that with you now, just so you hear it. And again, this is not something that you need to copy word for word. It's really more about the intention and who and what that you want to connect with. So like I did a reading this morning, and this is exactly what I do every time that I do a reading. And I like to say it out loud, especially when I'm giving a reading to somebody, so that they take in the energy, the consciousness of what we're connecting to as well. And if you want to, and if you're in a place where you're kind of sitting down, you're not doing anything or driving, definitely don't do this if you're driving with your eyes closed. But let's just do the invocation prayer. And I also have it available for download on my site. In fact, I think if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a free download of this as well. Let's just do this. Just take a nice deep breath in. And slowly let it out. Just allow all the tension to leave your mind, your body, your emotional state, your muscles. And then just know that as you breathe for the rest of the day, as you breathe in, you're breathing in light and healing and information. As you breathe out, you're breathing out anything, any negativity or anything that's creating disruption in your life. I intentionally raise our vibration. We are surrounded by the light because we are the light. I ask that our ego and personality stand aside as we connect with God, the Holy Spirit, blank, blank, blank. And so this is where you can add in whoever you'd like. I like to use Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Ascended Masters, and then the guides and angels of the person that I'm reading. And allow love, joy, miracles, healing, and information to flow through us. Boom. And then normally what happens for me is I start to connect with the other person's energy, and especially where I connect is where they receive their own guidance. And then I like to just give feedback to what I'm feeling, where I feel that they're getting all their intuitive information, which I think is really helpful, because then they can go off, or you can go off, and then if you journal or meditate, you can focus on those areas, and that does tend to start reducing the confusion. So there you go. That is the invocation prayer. That's how I start intuitive sessions, also for myself. And hopefully you found that really useful. And I really appreciate Aaron and Sheldon for calling in today. And again, I invite you and anybody listening in the future, please feel free to call in. And I love to gift out guidance and information. So we're going to have more of that. And in the meantime, feel free to check out Krytsa.com, KRYTSA.com. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll get 2 free ebooks, Forgiveness Inc. and Try Storming Your Life, Your Heart's Desire. Oh my gosh, I forgot the title of my own book. Wow, that's awesome. But you'll get free downloads. And I believe the invocation prayer, there's a link for that in there. So please feel free to sign up, and love to interact with you some more. And can't wait for the next show, which will be in 2 weeks. So Divine Spirits, it was great interacting with you, and much love to you, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.